Welcome everybody to 2021 Fall University Council. My name is Cristina Oancea and I am the University Council Chair and the University Senate Chair for the 2021-2022 academic year. For today, we have an agenda that includes a call to order that I'm going to start now. I will call to order the University Council meeting. Then we're going to establish quorum with help of Secretary Scott Correll. Then I'm going to say a few words, followed by select college and school updates from several of our deans. And then President Andy Armacost will give the State of the University address, followed by a question and answer period. And for that, I will ask you all, please submit your questions via the Q&A feature. And the plan is to adjourn this meeting of today at 4:30. So before we go any further, Secretary Correll, do we have quorum?
Well, we have 206 attendees, but I need 183 of them to be benefited faculty or administrators. And as I'm going through here, I've counted at least 30 that do not fit that role. So I'm going to say we don't have enough quorum to run a business meeting, but we certainly have enough people to enjoy all these great updates today.
All right, thank you so much. To begin with, since this is our University Council meeting and many of the faculty are new, I would like to introduce to them and to everyone else a few words about the University Council. What's the University Council? So as you all know, we have the University of North Dakota President Andy Armacost, and then we have the University Senate. At this point, we have 22 standing committees with the possibility of extension to 24 in the near future. And then we have the University Council that includes all benefited faculty of any rank, professional, librarians, administrators, for a total of more than 800 members. The University Council meets at least once a semester, so we have our fall 2021 meeting right now, followed by a spring 2022 University Council meeting. A quorum of 25% is needed to conduct council business, and the Senate meets once a month to exercise the powers of the council. All the senators are elected by members of the council. As the chair of the Senate, together with the entire Senate, the commitment for this academic year is to continue the shared governance of UND. And to this end, we want to have a one UND power where a lot of the project should be a joint department, college, schools projects. To this end, I encourage collaboration for greater initiative and eco-friendly sustainability. We are dealing with major environmental crises at the global level, and I am encouraging any projects coming from departments that would like to collaborate with as many other departments across the university as possible. I have in mind in that direction also solar power, and using solar power energy, and eventually potentially in the future becoming more self-reliant in terms of local food production, vegetables, fruits for the university. Also, we want to support each other throughout this ongoing pandemic and position ourselves to thrive into the future. Unfortunately, this pandemic has brought in some not so fortunate effects, such as depression among students, among staff, among faculty, and projects to alleviate this depression and eliminate it if possible are highly welcomed. Today, we will hear about some of the successes and challenges of our schools and colleges as we move into the future. I invited today 4 deans to present on their corresponding colleges and schools. Unfortunately, one of the deans, Dean Amy Henley of the Nisler College of Business and Public Administration, could not attend due to some last-minute unforeseen life event. And she is going to update us on the college COBPA next semester, the spring of 2022. Next, I would like to invite Dean Cindy Juntunen, the College of Education and Human Development, to update us on the situation of their college, and I will stop sharing my slide and let Dr. Juntunen take over. You are muted. Please.
My apologies. My mouse has been acting up all day. So now let's see if I can make this work. I should be able to. Okay. All right. Great. Can you all see that slide that says CEHD current status?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, well, this will give you a little bit of information about the College of Education Human Development. I'm certainly happy to be here today to talk with you about things that are happening in the college. We have our college consists of 2 large interdisciplinary departments. We have about 30 different programs in the college spanning all aspects of P12 preschool through 12th grade education. We have a comprehensive teacher education and school leadership development programs. We also have a series of counseling and counseling psychology, mental health oriented programs. We have kinesiology, public health education, rehabilitation, educational foundations and research, which focuses on educational research and policy kinds of issues, and higher education and leadership. So we have a wide-ranging, diverse program that covers all different kinds of aspects of education and health. Currently, we have a little over 1,400 students in the college. This is a bit of an increase from last year, and we're really tickled about this. And I'm going to talk about this both in terms of good news and some challenges that we know are forthcoming. We have a lot of doctoral students in the college. We have a little over 200 doctoral students, almost over 500 master students, and then over 600 bachelor students. So the majority of our students are actually graduate students, which makes us a little bit different from some other colleges on campus. Over half of our students are in online programs. And this is a really great and exciting opportunity for us because we are able to reach out to students all across the country. And we think that that's really important. It also ties into some of the things I'll talk about in terms of our goals for reaching out to rural communities and providing services in rural communities, especially through rural school preparation. And that's really good news. One of the challenges that we anticipate dealing with in the college is that COVID has really, there is some concern across the country that COVID is causing people to really look closely at whether they want to go into teaching as a profession. And so we're aware of that looming challenge, and we're taking a lot of different actions right now to try to counteract that and make sure that we're conveying all the excitement and opportunities that are coming with teaching at this point in time. Because there are some, it's really a great time to get involved in education. We want to be able to communicate that. We have quite a few innovative training opportunities that we're currently engaging in. We have a new Bachelor of Science in Indigenous Teacher Education, which builds on Indigenous languages program that we developed several years ago. And we're very excited about this. It's one of the first Indigenous teacher education programs that we're aware of, certainly in our region. We're actively engaged with many entities in the state to help provide counseling and psychological services through our Northern Prairie Community Clinic. This is a clinic that we run in conjunction with a couple of programs from the College of Arts and Sciences. And it's a really wonderful opportunity for the university to provide much needed services, especially now, again, as we come out of some of the mental health stress that has emerged during COVID. And so we've established partnerships with school districts throughout the state. The furthest one away is in Beach, North Dakota, which, if you're familiar with, is a tiny little town on the border with Montana. But schools throughout the state, and also different service entities throughout the state. And it's really having a powerful impact in terms of our ability to meet mental health and behavioral health needs in the region. We're very engaged in community and participatory research. One example that got a lot of press last year was our public health faculty collaborated with social work faculty and nursing and professional disciplines to do some really important research around mask wearing. But we also are engaged in a lot of participatory action research related to classroom experiences and experiential learning. So that's a really cool area of training that we're engaged in. And then finally, another example is we have a couple of teams that are very involved with EPSCoR, with ND EPSCoR, and are engaged both in terms of doing outreach and research, including doing some really innovative things with rural schools and bringing students out to rural schools to understand ways in which that rural context informs learning. And so we're really excited about that. The other area I want to highlight for the college is that we've really been working hard over the last few years to increase our scholarly activity, and have seen some great success in that recently. We have a steadily increasing range of publications, not only from faculty, but also from students in the college. We have a lot of increased involvement in grant writing and funding. And just to give you an example, the number of proposals in the last 4 years has doubled, and the amount of funding being sought in those proposals has more than doubled. And in addition to that, we are excited about an increase in actual grant funded dollars, both for research and training grants. So that's been really exciting. And then I will jump to what are some of our future plans. So we have 3 major areas of focus as we look into at least the short-term future. Sustaining and expanding the collaborations that we've been successful in establishing on campus here and beyond. So just as a few examples, we are just got exploratory approval of an esports major, which is a collaboration with 3 other colleges: Arts and Sciences, the College of Business and, the Nistler College of Business and Public Administration, and the College of Engineering and Mines. We are also collaborating with Engineering Minds around engineering education, which is a critically important and burgeoning field in education. And we're working with Arts and Sciences and Nursing and Professional Development to establish with a strategic initiative support from the university, to establish a rural behavioral health research cluster. So we're really, focusing a lot on those kinds of collaborations with other folks on campus. We're also having a big focus on establishing ourselves as leaders in rural education and health issues. So we have a Master of Science in Rural Education that the Bergman Foundation supports. We have a new initiative for rural education, equity, and economic development being run by one of our faculty, Diana D'Amico-Polowitz, which is going to be engaging in a variety of activities to link schools and economic development with a perspective on equity and social justice, and making sure that we have increased access to educational opportunities. We have some new online programs. Elementary ed and early childhood are 2 big ones that we believe will help us bring our education to rural communities, to really help demonstrate how people can get trained to be teachers in the schools, and even if they aren't able to leave their homes and come to Grand Forks. And we have a concerted effort in expanding the behavioral health workforce that's ready to work with rural populations. One example of that is a BWIT grant from HRSA, from the United States Department of Health and Human Services, multi-million-dollar grant that trains counselors, counseling psychologists, clinical psychologists, social workers, psychiatric mental health nurse providers, and psychiatry residents in an interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary context to be ready to provide important health services. And then finally, the college has a goal of continuing to increase our national visibility. So that just gives you a little bit of a peek into the kinds of things happening in EHD, and I'm happy to talk further with anybody who's interested in it. But in the meantime, I will stop sharing my screen and go on.
Thank you, you very much, Dr. Juntunen. Very, very informative, and congratulations. Very impressive, the activities that you're doing at your college. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we are going to hear from Dr. Rundquist, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Oancea, and good afternoon, everybody. So just to provide a little bit of an update for arts and sciences, as well as some thoughts on kind of the direction we're moving in the college. I think, you know, our biggest strength, or one of our biggest strengths anyway, relates to this slide here, these pictures here, and the fact that we have a lot of diversity of thought and diversity of discipline within the College of Arts and Sciences. That's something that I'm excited to share all the time. A wide range of student interests, from a wide range of faculty interests, wide range of expertise across the college. And we really have a talented group of students, staff, and faculty who really work together to ensure student success in arts and sciences. A little bit about where we're at right now. So we did have a decrease in arts and sciences majors, about 6% since fall 2020. The good news there is our freshman enrollment, our freshman class in terms of arts and sciences majors is up slightly from the previous fall semester. And if we look at tuition revenues, the most noticeable decline there is in the number of Minnesota students coming. So fewer Minnesota students relative to the North Dakota students currently. We also, some more information about our students. We have fewer undergraduate students now relative to graduate students. That number, we're still heavily undergraduate, but that number, that differential is getting less. We have fewer full-time students relative to part-time, meaning that we have more part-time students than before. Many of those students aren't staying with us for a full 4 years. Many are bringing in credits from high school, and those credits, of course, are largely general education courses, the majority of which they would take in arts and sciences. So they're shortening their time here, and they're not taking as many of the general courses or electives, or excuse me, essential studies requirements through arts and sciences. About 45% of our majors have at least one online course now. 17% of our majors are entirely online, and the remaining 38% are entirely on campus. So we've got different modes of delivery that we're serving the needs of students through. Faculty, between fall 2020 and fall 2021, we had a net increase of 3 full-time faculty members. Our research funding also is trending up. That's something that we worked hard to invest in and incentivize where possible. In FY22, we're going to come in, it looks like, well ahead of what we budgeted for. Our overall budget for the college is holding steady, even though we have a reduced number of student credit hours. We budgeted for those things, and we look good right now for this fiscal year. Building projects, we're wrapping up O'Kelly, Ireland second floor renovation. That floor should be ready to receive people back into it by May, I'm told. And then Gillette, of course, there's window work there, roof that affects the sociology faculty and students. And we're wrapping that up hopefully by the semester break. Fundraising also, we've had several good years of fundraising. $21 million raised between FY17 and FY21, and that's 48 new endowments. And then this year, we're also doing quite well. We have over $1 million so far through October 18th for FY22. So some exciting numbers. And that's, again, one of my best parts of my job is interacting with our alumni who are incredibly engaged and devoted to UND and arts and sciences. Looking ahead, some general things I say all the time, but I'll say them again. Looking for opportunities to collaborate across campus. We're doing that actively. We are working to be more intentional in telling our story about how arts and sciences meets the needs of the people of the state of North Dakota. And we're always looking for new opportunities to partner with people in the state and the region. And then looking to expand opportunities for undergraduate research, because I think that's one thing that sets UND Arts and Sciences apart from many schools in the region, many colleges of arts and sciences in the region, is our commitment to offering undergraduate research opportunities for our students. So always looking for ways to expand that. Curriculum, we're looking at several new programs or new delivery modes for existing programs. For example, we're working on a BS online in criminal justice, as well as a minor in CJ online. We're putting our MA track in communications online. We're getting ready to launch a MS in applied statistics. And then some other things, we're working on a professional science master's in chemistry, which will be online, and a professional science master's in geospatial technology. We are in the early stages of looking at an ethnic studies minor through the college, and we have a certificate now in diverse perspectives and a certificate in women and gender studies. And there are other programs kind of newer or less developed than that we'll be hope to share with you next time around. Searches, we have 9 faculty searches in progress. Those are all tenure track searches. Some of those are supported with strategic investment. So we are involved in the space research cohort along with colleagues in the College of Engineering and Mines in the Odegard School of Aerospace Sciences. And then the behavioral health cohort that Dean Juntunen described, we're also involved in that. So some hires ongoing there, as well as some things in other growth areas like forensic psychology, applied statistics, criminal justice, and chemistry. And then we're also looking to hire people in music education and American Indian studies. Building projects, people are talking about the Merrifield-Twomley project. We think that's upcoming sooner rather than later. So we had geared up for that a couple years ago, and we're trying to get that started again, the planning process, and get that moving now that it looks like we may have some funding behind that project. And then fundraising, continuing to work with our foundation closely and our alumni closely, and being more intentional about asking for support for faculty through endowed faculty positions or endowed chair positions. That's one of the areas that we're a little different for us, but we're going after that starting here soon. So that's my update and kind of a look ahead in the College of Arts and Sciences. Happy again to discuss at a later time with those who want more information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dean Rundquist. Very, very impressive, the expansion, the new programs, the funding. Thank you for the updates. Next, we are going to hear from Dean Robert Kraus of the Odegard School of Aerospace Sciences.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Cristina. Before I get started in showing slides, I do want to thank everyone across the university for the outpouring of support following our recent aircraft accident. John Hauser's family has established a mental health and aviation fund, and it's going to be an endowed fund to support continued research and programs in mental health and aviation and brain health and aviation. We're going to have more opportunities to talk about what we're doing in those areas as we move forward. Some opportunities have come up that as it comes up, we find out it's much more than just aviation and things within our college. And for those, we're working with the provost's office as well as student affairs to say some of these things and ideas can help across the entire campus for all of our students. So with that, I will now switch into the slides. And are you able to see my slides? All right, so I'm going to start off with just the numbers. Here's the numbers that we have. So similar to some of the other colleges, our largest increase is our commercial aviation program. So we've seen a significant increase over the last really 5 years. This chart just shows 3. So we're up to over 1,700 students in the commercial aviation major. You may have seen some news releases earlier this year about the record flying hours that we had done in fiscal year 20 up through July or through June. That's actually continued up until this week. We were at about 130% ahead of flying budgeted hours this week. So as a result of that, we are at a at about our capacity for the number of students that we have. And because of the large last 2 or 3 classes that have come in, we're going to need to cap enrollment starting next summer. So we're only going to have 325 freshmen is the plan right now that come into the program. We're also shifting our transfers into the flying programs to fall only. So there's not going to be any mid-year or summer transfers into those programs. But the other programs are not affected by that. So it's really just an aviation capacity that we're dealing with at this time. We did start some new programs this fall. So the aviation safety and operations degree did go online as well as on campus. We did kind of a soft opening since it is a new program. We've got 25 students already enrolled in that. And so we're very excited about that. We're going to be increasing our marketing of that program for this coming year. And this is a great opportunity for the partnership that we have with our with the UND Aerospace Foundation flying training down in Mesa, Arizona, with the Chandler Gilbert Community College for those students to continue their degree and get a 4-year degree from us after they do that training. Other new programs that have come up, Earth System Science and Policy has a Master's of Environmental Engineering in addition to the Master of Science they already have, as well as those programs, the ESSP programs have all gone online. Otherwise, the rest of the degrees are relatively stable. I do have 2 on here, the Airport and Aviation Management, which we track the numbers because the classes are mostly, the students are more under our college, but those degrees actually come from the Nistler College of Business. So there's a great partnership with those programs. We did see a growth in our space studies, both on the master's side as well as the PhD this year, due to what I'm going to talk about on the next slide. And then in terms of diversity, we're at 15.3% female for our students, which is actually up a little bit over the last couple of years, but that's actually higher than what the industry average is in aviation. So we're excited about that, but we're still trying to attract more women into the program, as well as more racial and ethnic diversity into the program. Some of the great things that have been going on in the college. A couple of weeks ago, we did have 3 of our alum or current students that were doing the weather coverage across 3 networks in Fargo. So Lauren Larson and Dylan Vogt, the top and bottom here, are all currently students, and they were the weekend weathercasters. Summer Schnellbach, and then of course during the week we have WDAY covered in the mornings also. So our alum are doing really well in the Fargo area as well as around the country. Also in atmospheric sciences, Mike Pellett, who'd been with the college for 45 years, recently retired. So great wishes to him as he and his wife move into retirement and other things. We've also seen some exciting space weather recently. So as we get into the winter season, there's been some northern light shows at night. I'm still trying to figure out what's the best way to forecast it before I go to bed, and so I don't miss them. We did restart our lunar and Mars habitat. So we've had 2 missions that have gone in that facility since COVID started. And so there was one in April, and then we just did another one in September. Some other big news on space side, Pablo De Leon, our department chair, is a Spanish-speaking representative for NASA. So when NASA needs a Spanish-speaking rep to talk about their programs, they've now enlisted his help to talk to all the other countries and all the other people in the Spanish language. There was also a lot of press earlier in August, and so this is one that I get to share with 2 other colleges, and the Vice President of Research and Economic Development Office was in early August. The Chief of Space Operations, General Raymond, visited University of North Dakota, and we signed the first university partnership program agreement with them. President Armacost signed that. We had visits from both of our senators, as well as representative from Representative Armstrong's office. So as part of that, the state legislature has given money to the University of North Dakota in the last legislative session for space infrastructure. We are kicking off our portion of that and setting up a space operations classroom that will look something similar to this. It won't be exactly to this bottom picture that's on here. The idea is it's going to be teaching space operations and orbital mechanics and things like that in partnership, and available to the College of Engineering and Mines, as well as the College of Arts and Sciences. In terms of hiring, we're hiring across the board. On atmospheric sciences, we're hiring at least 2 tenure, 1 tenure track, 1 non-tenure track faculty. Space studies is hiring 3 faculty as part of the space investments and space growth in our college. On the aviation side, we're hiring up to 6 more although it will end up being probably 4 because some of those are going to be internal transfers over. Some of the new research areas that are coming up. So we're definitely going to see an increase in space and space studies. And so a picture here is of an antenna that was reinstalled over the summer for satellite tracking operations. And so we're already able to track satellites out of the trailer that's over on the other side of the highway. Additionally, we've had a group within our aviation department organize and is working with the College of Engineering and Mines on sustainability and aviation efforts. And so this combines a lot of the expertise that we already have in Earth system science and policy, as well as what the future of the aviation industry is moving in terms of alternative fuels, better use of fuels, and then also alternative methods of propulsion. So we're talking to some electric aircraft companies and things like that. So the industry is moving in that direction, and so we're moving along with it. The other big thing that we're going to be seeing in the next couple of years, next summer, we're going to be tearing up the last part of our ramp out at the airport. We did receive the funding for that from the state legislature, and so that will have now completed all of our ramp repairs. Additionally, we've gone through the design phase for a new flight operations building. And so as we go through the fundraising campaign, the goal is to kick off and break ground on a new flight operations building at the airport in the spring of 23. So over the next year, I'll get to do what some of the deans have been doing in other colleges to raise money for their departments and their colleges. So it's an exciting time in aerospace, and I'll be open for questions later.
Thank you very much, Dean Kraus, for also very important updates from your school, for the visibility that your school has, not only at the national level, but also at the international level, and for the very important work that you are doing, the entire School of Aerospace and Sciences. Thank you. Next, we are going to hear from President Andy Armacost, the State of the University Address.
Great, thank you, Professor Oancea. And let me begin by thanking you for your tremendous leadership of the University Senate this year. And I know you've put your heart and soul into it and continued a great legacy of previous leaders as well. And I appreciate this format. I'm going to begin with that comment, that hearing from the deans directly, I think gives the attendees, the members of the council and the Senate, a great perspective about what's happening within each of the colleges and schools. And I know that last year, this was an initiative by then President Liz Legursky, and I'm really thrilled that you continued that tradition, because I think it's valuable to the members of our community. And so thank you, and thanks for the invitation to provide this presentation. I hesitate to call it the State of the University simply because it makes it sound like the State of the Union. And I don't have the Supreme Court here, nor the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but nonetheless, I think what I'll do is build upon the great comments of the deans, and know that this address comes in 2 phases, and this approach comes in 2 phases. In the spring, we'll do the same format with additional comments from the other deans as well. And I know that we're slated to go for another hour, and I will assuredly not speak that long. My remarks are probably about 15 minutes, and that will leave plenty of time for questions and answers from the crowd. So with that, let me, the dreaded sharing of the screen, which ends up always yielding the wrong screen, we'll give it a shot and we'll see what happens. And you should see a big white screen that says University of North Dakota at the top. Do you see that? Cristina, give me a head nod. Good, thank you. You're the only one I can see right now, so thanks for the feedback. The purpose of today is to highlight, similar to what I have done previously with other groups, such as our Alumni Foundation and other foundations affiliated with the university, to talk about some of the goings on at UND and to highlight what I feel are important areas of growth for the campus. And then also we'll point a little bit to the future. I figured it would be best to start by introducing new faces on our campus. And of course, our Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, Eric Link, joined us this summer, and we're thrilled to have his leadership of our academic programs and then his great advice about many matters on our campus. In addition, I'm excited to welcome Dr. Beth Helwig, who is our interim vice president for student affairs. Beth will be with us through the end of the spring semester in an interim capacity as we're beginning the search now for the permanent Vice President for Student Affairs. So welcome to Beth. She has tremendous experience at numerous universities, a huge basketball fan as well, and apparently, from what I understand, a national champion, a table tennis player. So welcome to Beth. And then finally, let me introduce Professor Dr. Tambaqui Bailey. Dr. Bailey comes to the position of Special Assistant to the President for Diversity and Inclusion. He's a professor in the College of Education and Human Development, and his time right now is 80% supporting the President's Office with campus-wide initiatives on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So welcome to Tambaqui, and again to Beth and to Eric as well. I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that Kathy and I spent the summer going around the state to introduce ourselves to alumni and friends and legislators across the state of North Dakota. You see 5 locations here. In each picture, you will see my arm in various states of repair, given a broken wrist that happened this year. So you can chuckle and try to find the cast or the splint in each of the pictures. But these images, I think, are important because they represent the connection that Kathy and I are trying to make with key members of our community. And it was a delightful way to hear their ideas, their thoughts, their concerns, and really to take their feedback and see how the university can continue to meet the needs of the citizens of North Dakota, and then also the citizens of the region and the nation. And perhaps one of the most enjoyable experiences was in the upper left corner when we were with a UND alum, Mike Appert. He and his wife Linda live on a farm in Hazelton, and Kathy and I did have a chance to ride combines and harvest rye that day. So it was an exciting time for us, since that's a part of our lives part of life that we had never experienced. And then you see the other interactions on this screen as well. Just again, a chance to develop those relationships and to make important connections. And the fall semester then kicked off with a lot of great action. Here are these, we see our students, some of these pictures, of course, are from previous years. But you know, the semester started off with the action that we normally see, and that's a gentle return to a campus as normal. And what we saw was the highest enrollment totals coming in since 2018. And we had overall a slight increase of about 1% in our enrollments, which is significant in the sense that many of our partner schools within the state of North Dakota saw decreases in their enrollment. Our new first-year students increased by roughly 9%. And so that's a good sign for the future. But this comes, the opening of the fall semester comes from tremendous effort from so many faculty and staff members to get your classes ready, to figure out how to continue to use technology in novel ways, and to continue. Some are doing hybrid. More people are doing face-to-face this fall than last year because of the depths of the pandemic we were in. But your focus on committing to delivering a high-quality education has just been extraordinary. So please accept my thanks and my appreciation for making that happen. And then also what helps set the vibe on our campus is the outreach that we had from so many to our students over the last year, answering their questions, reaching out just to check on them to make sure they were doing okay. The outpouring of support from faculty and staff members to our students was extraordinary. So great job there. One area of academics I wanted to highlight is an ongoing incredible story over in the School of Medicine and Health Sciences. And here we see our newest department at UND, the Department of Indigenous Health. And last year we had announced our PhD program in Indigenous health. And then organizationally, we've now structured activities supporting our American Indian students in the health professions here within this department. And we have, I'm going to hopefully from left to right, we have Melanie Nadu, Amber Lyon, Kyle Hill, Nicole Redvers, Jocelyn Dorsher, Shonda Schrader, Don Warren, Allison Kelleher, Andrew Williams, and Ursula Running Bear. And they comprise this new Department of Indigenous Health, the first of its kind in the nation. And we're extraordinarily proud of the services that we're providing to our American Indian students in the health professions. And it signals our commitment as a university to support our American Indian students across all of our disciplines. So congratulations to Don Warren for the vision of this and his success in making it happen. Of course, we see a return to action on the sports fields. If you recall, last fall, we shut down because of the pandemic, but things are alive and well in the sports fields again. And so we hosted our last home football game this past Saturday with a victory over who did we play? Illinois State. And it came down to the wire, but it was a really good game, and we came out on top. And then, of course, our other sports as well. In the lower right, we have hockey, which hosted the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame game down in Nashville. A great chance for many of our UND fans to come down and cheer the team on. Unfortunately, it was a loss to Penn State, but nonetheless, the team worked hard, and the fans, I think, had a wonderful time. So this is what really struck me about that was the many fans who use an opportunity like a sporting event to come together as families. So there were many family reunions and sports reunions and class reunions that happened. And really, this epitomizes the connections that we see among our alumni community. In addition to sports, let me focus on esports. And Cindy Juntunen, Dean Juntunen talked about esports as well and the growing program that we have, esports management, and we have an esports team. So our esports team is coached by Travis Isbell, and they're doing amazing things. It's a new frontier of both education and competition. And for those who haven't participated in esports, there are esports competitions that are filling up NBA and NFL arenas around the US for folks who gather to watch people compete in esports. And one of the founders of our program on campus and a real force in the local community to make esports a bigger thing is Caleb DeShock. And Caleb founded a company in town called Fenworks. And Fenworks is a gather. I think they have about 8 or 9 full-time employees now, and their focus is on promoting the field of esports. Caleb and his team are doing absolutely wonderful work, and congratulations to Travis on his work with our esports team here on campus. I wanted to focus on the idea of partnerships. You hear me talk a lot about partnerships and what it means to create partnerships. And the first partnerships are with the community. No better case of community partnerships than putting up new buildings, and the tradespeople from the local community. From what I understand, 90% of the work that happens is with Grand Forks sourced tradespeople. And so the pride that they show in the work is extraordinary. And we'll see this residence hall public-private partnership project continue to grow before our eyes. This was a project that we put before the State Board of Higher Education this summer, and they approved. We secured the funding, and we figured with all the projects going on campus, where do students spend the majority of their time? It's actually in their dormitories with their friends. And so modernizing our living experiences, particularly for our first-year students, we think is an important step towards growth of enrollment on campus. And then on the right-hand side is our town and gown relationship. This was a picture taken from Wake Up to UND, which happened in the new Memorial Union. But I wanted to highlight in the town and gown relationship, the important connection that UND has with the city of Grand Forks. And in fact, that connection is so strong that we were recognized jointly with the Larry Abernathy Award, which is the top award given by the International Town Gown Association to recognize the close partnership between a college and its host city. So this was just a real great opportunity for us to come together as a community for breakfast and to celebrate that close relationship. In addition, we have other partnerships as well, partnerships with local government. There you see City Manager Todd Phelan speaking in the upper left. In the lower left, we have our friends out at Grand Sky. In particular, this is one one of the tenants at Grand Sky, which is General Atomics. And so there's great work happening between UND and General Atomics to do work on unmanned systems. And then, of course, our work in space R&D is going to grow in importance as well. Our partnerships with the military are essential, and Dean Kraus, Bob Kraus just mentioned the work, and I think you saw this picture as well, of the signing of the University Partners Program. This is an historic agreement that really focuses both education and research opportunities across our entire campus. And as Bob pointed out, this is a real boon for not just the Odegard School, but also the College of Engineering and Mines, the College of Arts and Sciences, as well as opportunities to look at policy issues and legal issues and ethical issues associated with operations in space. We think that the main of the campus, the entire fabric of UND, can be contributors to this important work that's happening with the U.S. Space Force. In addition, we of course have partnerships with Cavalier Air Force Station, which is now a Space Force Station, in terms of workforce development opportunities and research opportunities. Our local Grand Forks Air Force Base has missions in unmanned systems, but also in space systems that will tie directly to the work that we're doing on campus. And we recently hosted 40 worldwide leaders that are connected with Grand Forks Air Force Base to talk about how UND can support them, but also how UND engages in the strategic planning process to move forward. And so our military leaders took a few notes about how we do strategic planning to support their strategic planning as well. And so lots of great activities happening on campus with respect to research and education tying to national security. And then our state partnerships are important as well. And I think it was mentioned several times by the deans about the support that we're getting from the state and the legislative support from our local legislators, but also from around the entire state of North Dakota has been absolutely stunning. And there's funding that has come forward for the EERC, continuing its role as the state's energy research center. The North Dakota Industrial Commission has lent its support for our drilling and completions lab. If you spell out the acronym, it's something like Dracula. And the drilling and completions lab also does work on extraction of rare earth elements, as well as drilling technologies and how we can make drilling actually a more effective process. Our Center for Innovation has connections with our Department of Commerce and supporting new businesses and entrepreneurship. And of course, our Department of Commerce supports our Small Business Development Center, which is located within the Nistler College. And then finally, the Northern Plains UAS test site and the Vantis system has gotten tremendous support so that we can support what we call beyond visual line of sight operations across the entire state of North Dakota. The legislative session last spring was very, very strong. We got many of the resource asks, the funding asks from that legislative session. And just last Friday, the legislature finished its special session where they were allocating ARPA funds. These are the American Recovery Plan Act funds, federal funds that were coming to the state for use in a variety of projects. We'll report back after the governor finally signs the legislation, but I can assure you that we got great support from the legislators in terms of how to support projects on our campus with that funding. And the question now is how the governor is going to respond and whether the governor supports what the legislature has suggested. So a lot happening in the world of the state of North Dakota and the support for our campus. I wanted to talk a bit about planning for the future and talk about focus areas as we go forward and give you a sense of what's on my mind in the upcoming year. And the first is the redesign of the UND strategic plan. And originally, I had taken the position that we were just going to update the current plan with the 7 goals that exist, with a couple modifications and kind of continuing the trend. As we spoke with the team captains from each of the goals, it became clear that that there are opportunities that we really need to take advantage of. Furthermore, when you look at the current strategic plan, it looks more like a list of things to do rather than an aspirational document. And so we're retrenching a little bit, and we're going to launch a plan to do a more complete review and modification of the strategic plan. And I put 4 bullets here just to highlight, as I think about the strategic plan, as we seek to be more aspirational. I think this new strategic plan should do a number of things. 4 of them are listed here. One is to focus on excellence in our educational and our research programs. A statement about excellence, a statement about trying to do some incredible things. As one, I'd love to see a Rhodes Scholar return to our campus, not an Rhodes Scholar, but find and develop students at UND that are that have the preparation to compete for international scholarships like the Marshall, or the Rhodes Scholarship, and really set our sights on really promoting that sense of educational excellence. I'd like to develop a true sense of community both on and off campus. This is a sense of connection across our departments. And what really pleased me is when the deans were talking about the connections that they're forming across colleges and schools on campus. And this is the essence of who we should be. Most issues that we'll face in society actually span multiple disciplines, and we should find ways to really promote that spirit of cross-discipline work and cross-college and school work as well. I think we should also seek a stronger connection of our curricular and co-curricular programs. I say this simply because when I look at the mission statement of the university, it's about developing our future leaders. And we have great assessment programs for our academic programs. But if we think about our co-curricular programs, where our students are really testing out and developing their leadership abilities, if we believe in our mission, then we should also believe in the power of those co-curricular programs and put emphasis there as well on how we assess them and deliver those programs. And then finally, just infusing this, I don't know, I like to call it the spirit of wonderment, that there's a lot to discover, and our sense of creativity and innovation on our campus should be obvious to anyone who steps here. And this could be through our entrepreneurship activities, our creative pursuits and the arts, the sense of discovery that happens across all of our disciplines. But a student who steps on campus should hit them square in the face, that when they graduate from the University of North Dakota, their sense of creativity will be nurtured and fostered throughout their time here, and that sense of wonderment should exist at every corner of our campus. All right. So these are just some ideas as we think about our strategic plan. Similar, related to our strategic plan is our comprehensive campaign that's coming up public. We anticipate its launch in January of 2023, and there we'll be working alongside the Alumni Association and Foundation very, very closely. And if you think about the way that we're going to characterize that comprehensive campaign, it should be closely tied with the excitement and the energy that exists within this new strategic plan. And so there's a great opportunity to mirror those, or to have those reflect one another, and to, when you read the strategic plan, there should be a direct connection to the comprehensive campaign and vice versa. Of course, on the top of all of our lists is the ongoing response to the pandemic and making sure we're making good decisions for the campus. Bob Kraus talked about the John Hauser Fund for Mental Health and Aviation. That's just one element of a focus of the campus on the mental and emotional health support that we need to provide to our students, our faculty, and our staff members. Of course, all eyes are on enrollments. This is kind of the coin of the realm for a university, that we should offer programs that attract students, and all of our great programs that we have on campus. There should be ample opportunity and increasing efforts to make sure that we're attracting students to take advantage of all of our wonderful programs. And then finally, we have our physical infrastructure improvements that are ongoing. This is an important part of offering world-class education and programs. And so I mentioned earlier the great physical changes that we're going to see over in the housing area as well. And finally, just a reminder, it's all about our students. I wanted to highlight 3 of them because I think each of these stories is pretty remarkable. Jonathan Warkala at the top is a military veteran, and he's an engineering double major. He works in his spare time with Engineers Without Borders, doing programs like water filtration systems for remote environments. He started out at UND as an online student and then transitioned to in-person in 2019. And he's a great example of how students at UND can take their academic expertise and make a difference as leaders, literally leaders in action. In the lower left, we have Sapir Sila. She's a tennis player from Florida, and she's one of the most interesting academic stories that I've heard. She, in her first year here at UND, completed her undergraduate degree. I'm letting that sink in for a moment. She finished her undergraduate degree. And she did that because she had an extraordinary amount of dual credit coming out of her high school, which I believe was in Florida. And so UND, part of bringing her here was our ability to allow her to balance tennis with her academic plan. So what does she do for her final 3 years while playing tennis? Well, what Sapir is doing is doing a dual degree, a JD MBA. So she's getting her law degree and her MBA at the same time while competing in her final 3 years as a tennis player. And if that isn't enough, if you were at several games, football games this year, Sapir actually sang the national anthem. She's got a beautiful singing voice, and she showcased that singing voice to honor our nation and the flag before the football games. And then finally, in the lower right is Malika Barbie Odera, and Malika is from Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. She originally hails from Cameroon and pursuing a degree in forensic science. And she launched a chapter of a student club. I'll share the title in a minute, but when she described this club to me, I'll tell you what it is. It's the National Society of Leadership and Success. And when she described the reasons why she started the club, it became obvious why she did. Our conversation went like this. I said to Malika, wow, it sounds like the mission of your club. And then she finished my sentence. She said, is exactly what the mission of UND is. And so here she saw an opportunity and a need on our campus to offer leadership experiences for our students in ways that we might have had a gap. There are many leadership opportunities that we do have, but she just saw the need for a structured group like this particular National Society for Leadership and Success. And she launched it. She took the lead. And so I was really proud of her involvement to create such a great opportunity for other students. There's no better way to end a presentation than to talk about our students and to remind ourselves that that's why we're here. I think all of our actions should be focused on a number of areas. When I took the trip around the state, which I led off with, there were 5 areas that I focused on. The first is these are my philosophies about educational leadership. The first is love your people. The second is always remember we're here for our students. The third is make sure we treat everybody on our campus with kindness, dignity, and respect. The fourth is to take every opportunity to learn and to make sure others do as well. And as we learn more, we should also realize that we should learn with a sense of humility and recognizing that other people are learning things as well. And then the fifth is to recognize that everybody is great at something and that it's our job as a university to tap into that greatness of our students, of our faculty, of our staff members, and let them soar. So with that, what I'll do is I'll turn it back over to Professor Oancea, and we'll turn it over for questions as they emerge. Thank you for listening, and hope you're having a great day.
Thank you, President Armacost, for a wonderful presentation, very comprehensive, making us even more proud of being UND faculty, staff, and student members, and being very fortunate to have you at the helm. Thank you so much for being our president. It means a lot to us, and your approach, your way of, your vision, and your approach as humble person, in addition to being a leadership person, is teaching a lot of us what true leadership really should mean and means. In addition, the emphasis on research, but also the emphasis on excellence in education, given that our students are our future ambassadors, given that they are the ones that are going to take the name of the university to the borders of the country and beyond. It's very important to reflect upon and to be very grateful of. And To this end, we are going to continue to our last part of this University Council meeting, the Q&A part. Please submit the questions for the President, Deans, and for me, the Senate Chair, using the Q&A feature in the Zoom. And to this, and I'm reading the first question. Please make mention of student affairs, student support activities, athletics, ERC, and other parts of UND that are not represented. If this is state of the university and university senate, why are only academic deans speaking? Actually, in the spring, the presentations are going to be made by the rest of the UND deans and also by student representatives and staff representatives on the University Council. But I'm hoping that the presentations that were done today have touched on many of these activities that are going on across campus. The second question, the Vice President of Research, now interim Vice President of Research, and the Graduate School Dean, now an interim Associate Dean, are all interims. Will there be searches to make these permanent positions? And will those searches occur in the future? Based on my knowledge, the answer is yes, but I would let President Armacost to elaborate on the answer.
Excellent. Both great questions. Let me go back to the first one too, just about the other support agencies. Great observation. And yes, so we will make sure that the other agencies outside of the academic programs certainly have a voice. And as Cristina mentioned, it sounds like both the student government representatives and the staff senate representatives will speak in the spring. But we need to make sure we have an opportunity to have voices from the other parts of the university. And I know at the University Senate, we often hear from other parts of the university as well. Just perhaps not, I guess we haven't done that at University Council, but for the next year, perhaps that's a great opportunity to recognize those folks. Now, as far as the second question about the search, yes, we will have searches for the Vice President of Research, and that'll be a national search. And I know that the provost and I have chatted about the graduate school and what's going to happen there. That position, I don't know if it's there's a lot moving about the dean of the graduate school and what that position looks like in the long term. And then in addition, how we conduct a search. But yes, there'll be a search. It'll at a minimum be an internal search and but potentially a national search there as well. When will those happen? Great question. I'm not sure about the graduate school dean, but I on the VP for research and economic development, that's probably still, we'll probably start that in about 6 months.
Thank you. Scott Correll, I thought that he wanted to answer also.
Nope, I was just clearing the question from the questions that are in the Q&A.
Make sure. All right. Any other questions? No questions in the Q&A. I have a question. I have a question for the UND President and the deans who presented so far. The pandemic has presented us with very many challenges. But then the pandemic has opened up some doors that may have been not opened under normal circumstances. Can you think of such doors, and what did the pandemic bring that maybe you would have not thought of would the pandemic not have been happening?
I'll take the initial stab while the deans are actually gathering their thoughts. There's been, keep in mind, I came in during a pandemic. So I observed UND through the eyes of a pandemic and through Zoom and through remote means. I think what we've gathered is a true appreciation of the role of technology to be able to do our work differently and sometimes better and sometimes not as well. What it's forced us to do is think about where are those right places to use this kind of technology. We often overlook, we look at Zoom as being dehumanizing, and that's true on one hand. On the other hand, sitting with masks on in a room that's face-to-face is also a bit dehumanizing as well. What I love about Zoom is I can see Professor Oancea staring at me. I can see, if they weren't all hidden, I could see everyone else too. There is something nice about seeing the faces of people. Everybody gets the same space. Everybody has the opportunity, hopefully, to contribute to the conversations. And so how we use the technology, I think, is really kind of unexpected. I would have never imagined saying, hey, I think today we're going to do a Zoom meeting just because it's cold out and we don't want to have people trudge across the campus. There's just something about quality of life that really happens. That's pretty nice. With that, I'll throw it over to the deans, Dean Juntunen, Dean Rundquist, Dean Kraus. Cindy, over to you.
One thing that I would say is that it has caused me, and I think a lot of my colleagues here in EHD, to think a lot more about access. We've had to really think about how to make education accessible. In our college, we've also had to think about how to make mental health services accessible. And that's opened up a lot of discussions about why haven't we thought this critically about access, even just in general, because a lot of people don't have access regardless of the pandemic. And I think it's helping us identify and reach out to groups and parts of the population that maybe have often not had easy access and make that access better. I mean, and I'm not saying that in a rosy way. That's a lot of work. There's a lot of work that goes into figuring out how to do that. But to be really looking critically at this question of access, I do think the pandemic has opened a different way of exploring that question and brought with it, through technology and other things, new ways of responding to those needs that were already there and maybe a little bit more hidden than they are now.
Yeah, I'll just add, I think for arts and sciences, we kind of pushed the limits of the technology too. We figured out some parts of the technology that maybe we had used, but not fully, and what we could do with some of the bells and whistles. I think it also helped us to define what we needed out of the technology to do the things we want to do, and moving forward that way. And then lastly, and it's kind of an odd way, I think it brought us together a little more, especially over that spring break where we were scrambling to get everything online. I think I was amazed at how people pulled together, faculty, students, staff, to finish out that semester the best we could.
I'll echo the advantages that technology brought to our education. So we had, we had online programs before that in some cases were just asynchronous programs. And by shifting everyone online, to echo what Dean Juntunen said about access, it forced us to look at those questions for everyone, which in the end benefits the ones that maybe we had overlooked previously. And so what's interesting I found then is as we returned, or in many of us returned, the bigger question was, when do we still use Zoom or Teams or the online versions, and when do we do in person? Because as President Armacost said, there's times when doing a Zoom meeting or a Zoom class actually makes more sense. We've had some academic classes where it makes more sense to have it an extremely large section, but remote, because we can have a guest speaker that now reaches the entire course all at once. And so for courses like that, it's great. But then again, what's the balance? There's times when students, they're paying for an education, and what is the best delivery method of that education? So, what's the right way to do it? So it's made us look at those things that maybe we hadn't considered before.
And Cristina, we talked a lot about technology here and the impact, but setting aside technology, just the reminder of the human element of life, right? And so here's a quick anecdote. I walk around campus and I say hi to a lot of people, and usually it's hello, how's your day, right? Just kindness, and you expect people to kind of smile and say something back, and you just don't know if you're going to have an impact. You don't seek to have an impact. You're just being friendly, right? And I got an email from a parent, a mother, who said one of those interactions just yielded what was her daughter was in a really tough spot, and just the simple act of me and my wife saying hello, how's it going, just a normal conversation, reinvigorated this student in a way that I wouldn't have expected just by saying hello to them. So I think setting aside the technology, just the return to, or the emphasis on common courtesy and just being kind to one another really will have powerful impacts at a time when people are still struggling in the presence of the pandemic. I was going to say the aftermath, but we're nowhere near the end.
Thank you all for your input, for your answers. And I think I should answer my own question also. I'm an associate professor in the Masters of Public Health program. So I've been teaching many years, even prior to the pandemic, courses in both the synchronous, live synchronous, and also asynchronous formats. What I have experienced through this pandemic was even more appreciation of the live synchronous format from the long distance students. Because prior to the pandemic, we had in-class students at the same time with long distance students via Zoom or via other technology on the screen, and the long distance students could not really see the in-class students' faces, and they could not really connect, and they could not really feel like part of the classroom. And now by going all live and everybody being in the same room and being able to see each other's faces and reading the names, the fact that every face has a name written underneath made it so much better, and students felt like they are part of the classroom much more, long distance I'm talking. And also we have seen an increase in long distance students enrolling in the program and being very interested in research project, joint research projects. So the barriers of distance were much more broken, I think, because of this connection that happened during this pandemic. And then anecdotally speaking also, so I'm originally from Romania, from Transylvania. That's where my accent comes from. And I remember the first year I came to United States as a student. It was at Oklahoma State University, and everybody was saying, "Hi, how are you?" And I would stop and say, "How I am," and expecting people will take the time and listen to me how I am. I mean, I couldn't understand why would anybody ask me how I am. How are you if they don't take the time to listen how I am? Then just say hi and end it. So I used that lesson and many other lessons that I was asking myself at the time, why? And I'm trying to teach my students now, listen to what other people have to say, because you listening and you participating in the conversation and you taking a little bit of the time that you have from your busy schedule can mean a lot to the life of another person. And the impact, the little words that you're going to say to others can mean the world to the life of others. So thank you once again for all of your answers and for all of your insights to this question. John Shab asked the question. The investment in physical infrastructure at UND is very visible and pervasive. This is happening at a time when online education is also being emphasized and growing. Are these competing and complementary visions of the future of education at UND? How we fight the right balance? Are these competing or complementary visions of the future of education at UND?
Yeah, my sense is they're complementary, and I think there are folks who want or need to come to campus. It's the experience that their lives allow or that their lives demand, and there are others who can't join us on campus or might choose to be here remotely, and so I think these are two different markets, and we have to work hard to try to appeal to both. I think it's also not an either or proposition, and John knows very well because his task force looked at this very carefully, that there are opportunities to exploit online learning or to use online learning as an effective tool for on-campus students as well. And so the use of technology can have profoundly positive impacts on delivery of on-campus courses too. So we need to be mindful of the connect. This is why it's a complementary issue, not a competitive issue. It should never be considered in either or. I see our provost is aboard as well. I missed him earlier, and perhaps he can answer that question. And if he wants to rewind and address the earlier question about the dean of the graduate school, I'd welcome his thoughts there too.
Thank you, President Armacost. Happy to weigh in for just a minute on both of those questions, if you'd like. Greetings, everyone. Nice to see you virtually today, and I've really appreciated the presentations by the deans here today. Really interesting and useful. So thanks to all of my colleagues for that. So let's take the first question. We're a comprehensive university, and I think what that means, perhaps even more so in a, I want to say post-pandemic environment, but not quite yet. I mean, we're desperate to say post-pandemic, but in a pandemic, hopeful to be post-pandemic environment in the near future. What we're coming to appreciate is that what it means to be a comprehensive university is that we're not only able to deliver quality educational experiences in our on-site courses and in our online courses, but indeed we're able to fully embrace multiple modalities, including hybrid modalities in the delivery of our programming. So I'll echo the sentiment of the president where he says it's not really an either or, it's a both and, that we have an opportunity here at the University of North Dakota to be great providers of quality educational experiences and promoters of research, both undergraduate and graduate and beyond, in service to our community through multiple conditions, multiple modalities. I certainly think that the University of North Dakota can continue to have a very rich on-campus life, but also provide an increasing array of great quality online and hybrid learning experiences. And then dialing back to a moment, someone had asked the question about the launch of a potential search for leadership in the graduate school. Just to pick up on a couple of thoughts that President Armacost had shared, we do anticipate getting that search launched sooner rather than later. I hesitate to set a specific date on it. Still working on a few details related to that in my office, but I do expect that by the end of this semester, a search will have been formulated and launched. More to come on that in the near future. So I'll just leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Provost Link. Any other questions? Well, given that there are no more questions, I want to thank you all for attending the fall 2021 University Council meeting. I want to thank you for the presenters, thank all the presenters, and I want to thank all the attendees. And we look forward to seeing you all next semester for the spring 2022 University Council meeting. And meanwhile, be safe, stay healthy, and be united. Thank you, and with this, meeting adjourned.